and welcome back to another edition of Leaving Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenas, with my co-host, Amilcar. What's going on, brother?
I'm good, David. Good to see you. Good to be on the air again. I didn't have time to go get a hat like you to cover up the second half of my quarantine grow out here. But, trust me, by the end of this, by next summer, you're gonna see me with full on braids.
Full on braids, huh? Well, at least you could grow full on braids. I'm at that stage already where I'm like, I'm just hoping I could fill up just enough in the front. You know what I mean?
You can braid up the beard if you grow it out.
I know, but we're not really even supposed to let it get this long either. You know,
Yeah.
but November's coming, and it's November beard, so we are allowed to grow out our beards. So hopefully, I can try to grow as much as I can and stuff. I don't know about you, but are you dressing up for this Halloween coming up on Saturday?
I'll dress up in sweatpants and a t-shirt and a hoodie, which is what I usually wear.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm gonna probably end up doing. Actually, I don't even know if there is gonna be any trick or treating and stuff. I don't even know if I'm
Yeah,
gonna answer the door with all the fights that are happening this Saturday
but
coming up from DAZN, ESPN, and Showtime. How are we even gonna have a chance to get up and give any treats to the kiddos?
fam, even if there wasn't COVID, I still wouldn't get up out of my sofa.
Right? Yeah.
Not with all these fights happening.
I mean, this whole Saturday is pretty much booked, which my wife hates when they're like Saturdays like this, when there's so many fights and so many different channels, because she's like, see, she's still stuck in like the time and the era of it was one channel like HBO, and it started at 5 o'clock, but that means that was like the pre hype up to the fight and stuff like that, and then the fights came on. Now she's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, there's more fights on another channel, and I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Two streaming services. We got like three television stations. We've got fights in England that start in the afternoon, you know? And if you're
Exactly.
like me and you're unfortunate, well, I shouldn't say unfortunate because I do love New York City, but what is unfortunate is when I have to stay up until after 1 to watch boxing. So that's not a day for the edibles when I got to stay up late because if I,
That's
you know,
got to be rough, man. Because even on Saturday with Showtime, and Showtime fights weren't that fantastic. They really weren't. I was having a really tough time staying up past 8 o'clock watching those fights. I actually did. I end up watching the zone fights, the Chocolito and Gonzalez and Estrada and Cuadres fight, as if it came on Saturday. So it gave me that chance to barbecue and have a few drinks, and then roll into the Showtime fights. Which there was a Martinez fight was actually really good. It was good. It was worth it. But after that, the Liptons, all those other fights, got to tell you the truth, I turned them off and went to bed.
yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's tough. I stayed up and watched the Custio Clayton, Sergey Lip fight. I thought that was pretty interesting. If we have time to talk about it, I'd like to talk about it later. But I know you want to start off with the fight card from the TV Azteca studios. Is I think where it took place, right? The one that was on the
Right?
zone.
Yeah, Mexico City.
Yeah.
What's up, Chicano Prophet? What's up, Santillo Media? Glad you guys can make it here on a Leaving Ring. First off, let's go with let's go off with Gonzalez versus Gonzalez, right? The Nicaraguan, his comeback has looked phenomenal. And I did have that sense that Gonzalez was really it was kind of a warm body for him, but it turned out to be a bit more Milcar. It was really a good fight. It was an all-out war. And I was happy to see that Gonzalez never tired out. His legs looked strong. He was still putting punches together. And Gonzalez made a good account for himself, the kid that was out of Mexico, an account out of himself to stand there and trade and move a lot, which I thought that was going to give Chocolatito a lot of problems. I thought that was going to puzzle him. I thought his legs would get old quick by that movement, but he was cutting off the ring and he was putting on the pressure. And not only was he putting on the pressure, he looked like the fresher guy when he went down the long stretch.
Yeah, he did, and it went to full 12 rounds,
Yep.
which I think is good for Chocolatito. I mean, a guy his age fighting in this lower weight class wants to be able to show that he's got the stamina and still the legs, like you said, to go the distance. So in that regards, it was good. What I don't think was that good for Chocolatito is, let's be honest, back in the day, he would have blown this guy out in a few rounds in his prime. So
Yeah, you're probably right.
yeah, so I see him as a little bit more vulnerable now. Actually, a lot more vulnerable since the Thor Rungvisai KO. I keep mentioning this, but I was at the first fight,
Right.
um, Rungvisai that he lost, and he just really hasn't looked the same since then. I mean, let's not forget that Chocolatito prior to this comeback was literally obliterating dudes. Like we'd see him go into matches and literally think every match wasn't going to be competitive. That side of Chocolatito, I think, is gone, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to be in exciting fights.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, then I disagree with you because here's
Yep.
one thing that I liked about Chocolatito that showed me in the second part of half of his career, which a lot of guys cannot rejuvenate themselves, get them back in that championship contingency and look and be able to perform the way he did on Friday night against a young lion like Gonzalez.
Yep.
Gonzalez came in with the right recipe, the right plan, which was move, be the faster guy, don't stand there too long and commit, and only commit when you feel like you got the upper hand against the older warrior. He did all of that, but the knowledge that Choco has, to me, it took over. And I said this on Twitter on that night, late at that night, because I did watch it later on that night. I wanted to watch it again, but I did say that this part of Chocolatito's career is by far better than a lot of these prime fighters right now that we're witnessing because he's willing to take on the hard fights. And you know what? Regardless that he looks older, he does look a step back. He's still competitive, I believe, with anybody in any weight division you put him in.
Yeah, I would suggest he stay where he is in terms of
Right.
his weight. Uh, Giga Gonzalez, I mean, he was a competent opponent, but he went into the fight with 3 losses, and um, he gave him a test. I definitely see this as more of kind of a stay busy fight than a competitive rematch, which is what El Gallo Estrada was in over the weekend. But Gonzalez got his 50th win. I don't necessarily agree with the scorecards, or two of them at least. It was 118, 110, 116, 112, and 117, 111. Um, I think that the 116, 112 is kind of right where it should be. The 117, 111, I think is decent. The 118, 110, I just thought that was ridiculous. What about you?
You know what? I gotta tell you the truth. I didn't even score the fight because I was more in awe of the action. Because if you remember this, I had said when it comes to the smaller guys, it's either they're going to perform very well or it's just going to go down south pretty fast because of age
Yeah,
and it catches up. But I was more in the awe of the performance that Chocolatito was able to do and keep up, and because I honestly felt okay. The sixth, seventh round, I'm like, okay, he's gonna slow down a bit. His legs are gonna they're gonna start feeling his age, and they kind of did for a minute. But then he was like the energy buzz. He was able to go back to the corner, kind of get that energy back, go back out there, and then put that pressure on again. And that just kept me just watching the fight and not even caring about scoring the fight. But I felt that Chocolatito did a whole lot to win that fight. I thought Gonzalez had the right game plan, but it was Chocolatito that was able to implicate his game plan a lot harder and a lot more convincing, in my opinion. So without even scoring it, I just thought hands down he had the fight.
yeah, he had the fight. I mean, look, he won the fight clearly. Maybe I'm being a little bit too critical in terms of what I would have liked to see him do, especially going into a rematch with Estrada.
Right.
But the good news is that he showed that he can go a full 12 rounds. So I mean, that's a victory to a certain extent. I just feel that a guy who's had 3 losses, fighting against a guy who was once considered to be amongst, for what it's worth, the best pound for pound fighters in the world, that if I was like a serious backer of Chocolatito, I would have really liked to see him get the KO here, just to give me that confidence going into the Estrada fight. And I'm sure we'll talk about Estrada later.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what happened. Your camera froze here. Um, you got this frown. I'm trying to figure out if it's on my end.
What the hell's going? My face is on. What the fuck is going on over here, Mo? You see it right there. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm like, is he upset? Is he mad at me about what I'm saying right now here on leaving
Well,
the ring?
I'm not mad at all. I was probably focused on
Focus on
something
something on the screen, right? No, I know that, but I'm just making a joke here. On
Of course.
Okay, so Estrada, Francisco Estrada versus Carlos Cuadros. We said this on the roundtable. I said this on the roundtable. I was wondering how much was left of Carlos. He went out there and showed us exactly what was left in him. It was a back and forth seesaw type of fight. Really, honestly, a reminiscence of HBO After Dark type of card, in my opinion. This brought me back to the '90s when these both main events went out there and put it on the line there, left it in the ring there, in my opinion. Cuadros was doing fantastic, but Estrada is just a big kid, and he was able to be the better guy that night, putting on his pressure, landing some really solid shots, and guess what? He got the TKO, or he got the KO, right?
Yeah, he got the KO. I was actually really impressed by the way Cuadras came out, and the fact that he got the first knockdown of the fight,
right,
was surprising. But what wasn't surprising was that El Gallo came back from that, and actually, if anything, it kind of brought out more of the attacking mode El Gallo, being knocked down, because one thing about El Gallo is that he can actually box off the back foot, use distance, counter punch effectively, and he can also go to war. And it's a great inside fighter. So we saw kind of all aspects of him. He went kind of from the boxer, counter puncher, and then after he got knocked down, went into full on beast mode inside fighter Estrada, which I really appreciated, because it turned the fight into what should be a fight of the year candidate. But we've had so many great fights this year. It's
amazing. Amazing that we have a category of a couple of fights in the fight of the year that we can talk about in December, in mid-December, to throw up our candidate who we think is going to be fight of the year. I'm really happy that we got that, because it really looked like we were like destined not to get anything, especially out of the zone. It looked like we were not going to get anything. It looked like we were at that close, that we were like in that moment in the '70s when all the the factories shut down and you showed up at work and they had a big sign saying, "Sorry, it's closed, and here's your last check."
Yeah. It's been a great year of boxing for sure, and I know we're gonna get into this weekend's fights. Actually, let me just save that for later.
Well, let me ask you this:
Yeah,
with Estrada and Cuadros the fight, watching that fight and seeing what happened, what did you learn about Francisco in that fight? Is there anything that stood out that you think he's gonna be? That's going to benefit him against Chocolatito? And is there anything that you saw out of Chocolatito that you saw it's going to benefit him going into the rematch with Estrada?
Yeah, what I saw is that even at this stage of his career, El Gallo is able to walk through the fire and face adversity and pull out a win, after honestly, getting knocked down like that.
Right.
This was a much bigger test than what Chocolatito faced in Gonzalez. I was impressed by the Kyle Yafai fight more than I was by this fight actually.
Really? I was impressed by both fights, to tell you the truth.
Actually, let me retract that. I was impressed by both fights, but the reason I was slightly more impressed, I should say, by the Yafai fight is Cal Yafai was like a highly touted guy coming out of England.
Right.
And with all due respect, Giga Gonzalez wasn't anyone that was really ever on my radar. So the fact that he was, impressive over 12 rounds with him was not necessarily as impressive as literally schooling the guy that was touted to be the next, lower weight star out of England.
Well, I'll tell you what impressed me, though, because both styles were different, okay?
Yeah.
Yafai and Gonzalez, to me, pose different looks to Gonzalez, which you always want to see how fresh, how is he really back? Is Chocolatito really back to be competitive against Estrada? And seeing what he did with Yafai and what he did with Gonzalez on those two separate occasions told me that, you know what? He is back. This fight's going to be competitive. How competitive it's going to be against Estrada, I don't know. But I tell you what, Cuadras took a little chunk off of Estrada. So to me, it makes it even more competitive than if we didn't see Estrada versus Cuadras. You know what I mean? If this wasn't a double header, it still would have left. Is Estrada going to be too strong? Is it too fresh for Chocolatito? But for me, it almost kind of equals it out. It balances it out for me, witnessing both these guys on that night.
Yeah, it was, back in the day that this would have actually been kind of a card where two kind of main eventers were, in co-features and fighting lesser opponents in anticipation of like the pay-per-view that they would be fighting in, or, their fight. I just think, as I said before, that obviously the Estrada Cuadras fight was, a much tougher test for Estrada than the Giga Gonzalez was for Chocolatito.
Right.
But like I said, we saw that he can go 12 rounds and still box at a very high level and school a lesser experienced lower level fighter.
Now, Eddie Hearn had said that he wants to make sure that this fight really deserves an audience, and he would like to make it in Southern California. That'd be fantastic if they do it. So, I know it's too soon and too early to make a prediction, but just for shits and giggles.
Am I still on, Dave?
You should be. I was about to send you another link. You should be on. So I'm gonna send you another link right now to the show.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
It seems like we've lost Dave, or you guys have lost me.
I think we might have lost the milk car here.
Check in with him and see what's going on.
So anyway, guys, if you guys can hear me, hit me up in the chat room. Let me know if you can hear me. If it's
we might have to
or if it's a
end
milk
this
car.
broadcast and restart it, but we'll see.
All right, hold on here. Can you hear me? Hello. Let's see. Chicano Prophet. Yeah, you guys can hear us both. A milk car. So I actually sent a milk car another link. Let's see if he can. I'll tell him right now. He's actually hitting me up. Check your email. I sent you another link to get back.
So I'm not quite sure what's going on. If anyone can hear me, please let me know in the chat. I lost video, and seems like my audio has been lost now as well.
Well, we can hear you, Amilcar. I sent him another link. Sorry about this, guys. I don't know what happened. It's on his end. But Chicano Prophet said, yeah, we can hear you. Can hear us both. It's just that Amilcar is stuck on. There we go. Let's get Amilcar on. All right. There we go. Amilcar, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I don't know if you can see my video. I can see the video fine in the eCam at the bottom. Not too sure why it's not showing it at the top.
You're back on frozen again for some reason.
Yeah, I don't understand that, to be honest. Not uh, quite sure what's going on.